Best new app for entrepreneurs to record podcasts. Breaking story.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran. Of course, I'm joined by my co host, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good morning, Todd. It's great to be back on the new media show. We're in the fall cycle now. Summer is behind us clearly. Now, granted, it's always summer in Hawaii, but
Yeah.
it's great to be back on the show again, talking about the podcasting space and
Mm,
whatever else you want to talk about, Todd, because
Yeah,
we don't always talk about podcasting on this show.
that's true. And matter of fact, this morning when the alarm went off at 4:45 a.m., I was like, I wish we'd have quit drinking a little earlier. We went to a party last night, and I had a designated driver, my son, but yeah, I was looking at my watch about 11:30 and I said, "We need to go home. I have to be up in 4.5 hours." So, yeah, a little hair of the dog this morning and I have a massive glass of water here to hydrate. So, I'm ready to talk about podcasting.
Yeah.
Oh. So, anyway, it just that's the thing. I have to remember for me, you get at least a few hours sleep if you go out and have a large night. I don't get that opportunity, but we are coming up on daylight savings time at some point, so I will get an hour.
Yes, that's right. The handoff back of time to you, so you'll get up
At
at
five,
6 instead of 5,
yeah,
right?
5:30, 5:45 instead of 4:45. Yeah.
Wow, sleeping in.
Whew, and it's huge. I love it. So, NAB New York was this past week,
Yeah,
and Angelo went to New York City. We sent him, he had a session that he was involved in. I know Rob Walsh was in a session as well,
yeah.
but Angelo spoke to the Audio Engineering Something Society, part of NAB, and they had a 90-minute podcasting session.
Wow.
So there was a gentleman there from Nielsen, someone there from Triton, and Angelo, of course, from Raw Voice Blueberry, talking about the podcasting space, audio specifications. It wasn't super technical, but it was just kind of this overarching overview. And Angelo
Uh-huh.
said it was, decently attended for a 4 o'clock in the afternoon session on what was it? No, on a Thursday. So,
Thursday. Yeah.
he didn't have the biggest crowd, but at least they got to talk podcasting for 90 minutes. And then
Well, yeah.
the next day, I had him running all over the city, meeting with clients. He found out what it's like to step out of the building, jump in an Uber or Lyft, because yeah, we're using Lyft, and bounce to the next meeting. And so he called me from just before he was boarding the airplane yesterday at 6. He says, "Dude, how do you come here for 5 days?" And I'm like, "Welcome to my club." So
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that too. Go to New York and bounce around to meetings all afternoon. It can be a little stressful battling the traffic and the crowds and the city to get to multiple appointments. Yeah.
but one thing I'm appreciative of is the in New York, they're all business. If your meeting starts at 3 o'clock, by 3:05, you're in the meeting, and
Hmm.
if your meeting ends at 4, you're out of there. There's none of this like extending
Yeah.
30 minutes. They're very,
Prompt.
yeah, they honor your time, and
Hmm.
it's completely the opposite of the West Coast. When I go to the West Coast, I have to always, I may get in 30 minutes late, and it may run 30 minutes long, so it takes me longer to do meetings in California and San Francisco than it does in New York.
Well, I think the big difference is how difficult it is to get around um, on the West Coast down in Southern California versus New York City. You're basically always on foot,
Yeah,
right? Or you're taking the
yeah,
subway, which is pretty reliable.
yeah. Oh,
So
I
you can, I mean, you can get to where you need to go on time in New York or L.A. Just the traffic down there is unpredictable.
yeah. Of course I'm a spoiled baby. I don't take the subway when I'm in New York. I'm too tight on time.
Taxi?
No, I take Lyft. I used to take Uber,
Oh,
but
Lyft. Oh, okay.
just
Yeah.
as you're coming down the elevator,
Yeah.
I literally fire the app for a pickup, and you walk out of the building, and within like 2 minutes, you're in a car. And
Yeah.
so it has evolutionized. I can space meetings 30 minutes apart now. Now of course if traffic's bad, then you're screwed. But m- if midday, you can get around Midtown pretty easy. So
Hmm.
anyway, it's just what it is. But anyway, he got a taste of the big city, and doing some meetings. And one thing he found out, he said, um, "You and Rob get listened to a lot by a lot of people." I was like, "Really?" He says, "Yeah. Every place I went, there's, oh yeah, we listened to Todd and Rob on their new media show." So, and I told him, I said, "Well, I should have sent you with a message to tell them that they could come on the show. So, all you New Yorkers that listen to this show, don't be shy. We can have you on, and go run that up the flagpole with your powers that be." Some of these folks are in pretty big organizations, so they can't because it's so difficult to get approval.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always an issue with certain companies that whether or not they feel like they have the ability to do that. I mean, it's great when you do get a person on like that that really can feel like they can just do that kind of stuff. And it gets back to things we've talked about in the past about those that are in this medium being actually involved in creating content,
Mm-hmm.
getting behind the microphone, knowing that side of the business is really important. Like we've noticed over the years, there's quite a few people that will come on this show that don't have any kind of good recording capabilities.
Right.
Like they'll want to do the show on their iPhone or something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And it presents a little bit of a challenge, but it really gets back to, if you're going to work in this medium, I think it really helps to understand the content side too, and understand how to do a podcast. And you should always be, I think, I mean, it's so inexpensive now to get a ATR 2100 or something like that, a USB microphone, and just get into your laptop. And if there's opportunities to be interviewed, jump on it. I
Mm-hmm.
do interviews all the time. I don't know, but I know, Todd, you do too. So
Yeah, a
it's
couple a
just
week.
part of, yeah, it's just part of breathing almost for us. But I guess we're a little unique now, Todd. It's not everybody is i- inclined to do things like that.
Well, I did, I am appreciative that, we've got people at least silently listening that we didn't know were listening.
Oh yeah, I
So,
mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we're appreciative of everybody that listens to this show, because I mean, really, this is not a show where we do a lot of prep. This isn't contrived. This isn't planned. Not at all. I mean, we pull up our microphones and the webcams, and we just talk about whatever comes to our minds. And it's an exchange. It's like you're sitting with us at Starbucks.
yep.
That's the experience it's been there, and we've been doing this for so long. We can almost like think what the other one's going to say in a lot of topics, and that's what's kind of interesting.
Scary.
I think, yeah. Well, there was also the possibility that we agree on too much together, right? And it can create a boring show.
And also, I hate to say it, but even though we're competitors, technically, it reflects sometimes in our product stuff because just like last week at the end of the show, I was just laughing because I'm like, man, we've been hanging out too much together because our ideas are rubbing off on each other, or
Oh yeah.
or we
Well,
think,
that's gonna
yeah,
happen.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We think mutually alike, but anyway, it's all good and fun, and there's plenty to go around. But you I mentioned something before we started the show. We were kind of shaking our head at, but you've had some folks that have been, you said, were coming in that were not even launching the show and wanted to launch with advertising. So, is this
Yeah.
something new you're hearing? I don't get that as much. So, are you hearing this a lot more now?
Well, I think it's something that's been part of my experience in the podcasting space for quite a while because of some of the places that I've worked. This is usually happens when you get involved in artists, big big media celebrities, folks that have a big social profile, where they want to get involved in podcasting, but they're used to making big money. So with everything that they do, right? So they apply that same ideology to podcasting and want to get paid right from the first episode for producing a podcast. Now,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's possible. But it's really not necessarily advisable, and a lot of these folks don't realize it because of the consequences that can fall from that because of how the advertisers look at this medium. They look at they want a guaranteed number. They want to know how many impressions they're going to get or listeners that they're going to get to that particular show, and they only want to buy that. They don't want to buy some future number, or they don't want to buy for some projected number that you don't meet. And then you have to play this game of make goods. And but if you go over what
Mm-hmm.
your number is, then they don't want to pay you for that.
That's a fact.
So you, you're kind of in this catch-22 situation where unless you have a track record and a history of that you have, let's say 25,000 listeners that listen on average to like your last 4 episodes or something like that over some period of time, whether it's 2 weeks, a week, a month, whatever that period is. It's hard to give an advertiser a guaranteed number because they want to be locked in. But a lot of these big celebrities want to come in and say, well, I want to get paid $20 CPM for everything that I deliver. And then they want to go out and say, well, I can get this celebrity to drive listeners at 100,000 listeners because of his social following. He's got 9 million Twitter followers, or she does, or whatever, and we can drive it. But they've never done it before, so it's like, you know, can you really do that? I've seen a lot of big name celebrities not drive 5,000 listens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to guarantee that. Most podcasts builds relatively slowly. I mean, you can ramp up a podcast pretty fast if you do enough, advertising, Facebook promotion, get articles in, you know, the Hollywood Reporter, wherever you can, around the particular industry. I've seen it done with wrestling podcasts before. I've seen it done, when I was working for Podcast One. But you have to drive a lot of pre-distribution. So you have to like have a trailer or preview episode that goes up there, and then you develop your distribution strategy and get it on all the platforms and get it ready, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, you actually launch the real episode. And so you've been able to build up a lot of pre-subscriptions. But even that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get big numbers. And most of these advertisers want to have at least a guarantee of 10,000 plays or listens before they'll even do a CPM campaign with you. And you may or may not hit that. If you're wildly successful, you're not going to get paid. But if you don't hit it, you're screwed too. So it can ruin the reputation of the show, and it can ruin the reputation of the ad seller that sold that campaign into an advertiser too. So there's a lot of risks. And Todd, I'm sure you know that as well, because these are common practices in the podcasting space.
Well, I had an advertiser a number of years ago that wanted in a specific show, and they were willing to pay huge. I mean, large,
Mm-hmm.
like like twenty
Mm-hmm.
$20,000 an episode to be in a specific show. And I'm number one, I said you're overpaying. Number two, I don't think you're going to get good delivery based upon this audience and who this person is. And man, I said, this is what my boss wants. This is what we're going to do. And I made him sign a disclaimer that I had warned them, and that when the bill came due, there was going to be number one, no make goods.
Yep.
I put some serious constraints on this deal because there was this, I just saw it coming. There was train wreck coming. And
Yeah.
and they, what I predicted
Expectations.
came
Yep.
absolutely true. And they wrote the check, and they weren't happy. But I told them, I said, listen, I warned you, and you didn't listen. And they've never been back. They've never advertised in another podcast ever again. But they spent a huge
Yeah.
amount of money on that show. Now that, and even the host was kind of like, this doesn't really fit, but if they want to spend the money, um, you know, what am I to tell them no? So it was, I've seen that situation, but with an established audience. But I don't know. I'm pretty cautious. I typically want 12 episodes of tracking history, and I want to know where a show has been and where it's going, and you really can't do that out of the gate with and I don't deal with a lot of celebrity shows, but it's yeah, it's tough when they're used to getting, X number of dollars for TV endorsement or whatever it is. So yeah, it's a different beast.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But you still want to work with them, and you still want to see if it can be done. But at the end of the day, I wind up recommending that at a bare minimum, just launch your first episode, do all your PR and all your social media and your media outreach, and do all that stuff for like your first couple of episodes. At least get some sort of baseline about what's possible, and then go after the advertiser, because at least you can have some confidence. Now, the other risk of this is that just because you get a big audience your first episode doesn't mean you're going to retain that audience
Hmm.
in episode two. I mean, if you put all your guns into one episode, um, and but you don't into the second episode, you could see a big fall off too. So it's tough, because people will come in to listen to that big guest that you have, or whatever. I mean, you might have. So you're going to have to line up a bunch of really big name guests if that's what you're going to do over three or four, probably the whole lifespan of your podcast, if you want to maintain growth in your show. Else you're going to see an up and down, and that's going to shake the confidence of your advertiser.
I've always
Um,
said that if you rely on guests to build your audience, you're screwed. The audience should come
yeah,
for
because you never know.
the audience
Yeah.
should come for you, and the guest
Yep.
is a bonus.
Yeah.
And I've heard this
That's right.
strategy by folks a lot. I'm gonna have this guest, this guest, this guest, and I'm like, that's cool, but you're building.
Yeah.
You better have a
Yeah.
personality. You better not be dry as a rock. So
Well, yeah. I mean, it's proven on the radio side. That's what's it's the personality that's behind the show is what drives the audience.
hmm
It's not the guest. The guests just add to that potential listening base. But a lot of those listeners will just come and go. You know,
yeah.
they'll tune in just to hear that guest, and then they won't be back.
So there was a some things that I heard out of New York. Angela just mentioned. I won't say clients, but I think some content creators are having challenges telling their leadership why a show has an ebb and flow. Because in television, you've got to have a pretty steady and usually growing base. And anything like, when they do a pilot, they want to see, a steady increase in audience and buzz. But in podcasting, we know, from my example, as I've been doing my show now, 13 plus years, is that I have people that come back to my show that have been gone 2 years, and they come back and say,
Hmm.
hey, I'm listening again. I went away for a little while. But I think in any podcast, you're going to have an ebb and flow of listeners because, quite frankly, I don't care how good you are. Sometimes people just get tired of hearing you, and they want to switch it up, or they're in a new phase of their life or whatever it may be. And so you're trying to talk to folks that are in the podcasting space about how you have an ebb and flow of audiences, and audience numbers can change. Um, it's hard for some folks to get their head wrapped around that, and they
Yeah.
want something explainable. Why did the audience go down, or why did an audience go up? And if you're like the network manager, and you're not the host. Maybe if you're the host, you know why your audiences went down or up. But it was interesting that that particular topic came up.
Though I think subjects and topics do drive swings like this. Uh, I see it with the podcasting that I've done over the years. Big swings. There's certain topics that just hit with the audience,
Yeah.
and people tune in. People find it in Google or search, or it's part of this discovery thing that we talk about a lot on this show. People tune in for topics because that's something that's relevant to them, or a problem they're trying to solve, or something that they're thinking about at that time. I mean, really, content and topics can be very timely too. I mean, that's that's what kind of what we do with this show to some degree is as we talk about things that we experienced here over the last week,
Right.
that tend to be kind of hot button things that maybe people are thinking about, and that's you know that comes and goes, and sometimes those topics reach larger audiences, or is relevant to larger audiences than other topics,
Mm-hmm.
so it can cause big swings. I see it with my Speaker Live show that I do. I mean, anytime I do a show talking about how to start a podcast, the numbers are really big, but the shows that I talk about advertising, the numbers aren't so big.
Hmm.
So, it's kind of that kind of thing. So, because there's fewer people interested in that topic, right?
Right. Right.
Um, so that drives it a lot as well.
Well, I can't let the cat out of the bag, but I will. We will have a mini announcement later in the week at Raw Voice Blueberry. Something.
Oh, good.
Nothing too earth shattering, but we'll have have an
Well,
announcement later in the week.
well, we did have an announcement this past week.
Oh,
We launched our our app for Alexa on the
yeah,
Echo
yeah,
devices
I
this
saw
past
that.
week.
That's
Yeah,
pretty exciting.
yeah. So it's something I've been pushing the team on to do for many months, trying to get that up and going anyway, and see what happens. I mean, it seems to have gotten a good start. People are starting to use it. We've got about 50,000 shows in the catalog. That's all, but those are all shows that are available through the Spreaker platform.
So,
So it's
how long did it take your team to put that together? And it's really is you when I was talking with Angela about it, a couple of months ago. It's not that it just you just got to get it done. It doesn't seem like it's that difficult.
yeah. No, it is. I think the biggest challenge is just kind of like getting our heads wrapped around the concept of navigation,
Mm,
and making sure that we've optimized that as best as possible. I know that there's a lot of kind of things that are built into the APIs and the capabilities of the platform that are pretty unified. But just you know, understanding that part of it is important, in using the certain kind of terminology that helps people to some degree in different areas, um, and and it was really kind of understanding what was possible too, because the impression that I got from talking to Jeff, the guy from Amazon that works on this stuff, was that it was ideally suited to building for an individual show versus a network of shows. So we had to get in and really dive into that, and create something that was like a little bit competitive to what TuneIn is doing, or that kind of thing. And I mean, it is a little bit of a challenge. It isn't like you can necessarily just go to your Alexa device and just say what podcast that you want to listen to. You have to actually install the app and on the server side, and then it's available. So it's a little bit it's a little bit of a it's still kind of early for the Alexa platform, I think. Todd,
and
is it?
and for those of you that have been listening on your Amazon platform, you've been triggered 3 times. So you're going to have to get in
Yes.
the habit, Rob, of saying your Amazon device. Don't say the Alexa word because those that are listening just stop listening.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
because if someone's listening on the device and you say that, you say Alexa, the device will wake up and it'll actually stop midstream and looking for your your command. So, same
Yeah.
thing with the Google device. You have to be, very careful not to trigger it from your show.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, Todd. Thanks.
Because if
Yeah.
so
Sorry, everybody out there that
yeah.
that happened.
So if you're
Yeah.
you're given instructions. You're given instructions on your speaker live show on how to use this thing, and you're speaking the commands. You have some very infuriated people.
That's a good point, Todd.
It
Thank you.
is, it is. But there is a little trick, though. You if you want to really get a kickstart on how this thing works, you issue the command to install the app or install the whatever they call it, the
Skill.
skill. So you say that word, and everyone that is playing anything that the Amazon device can hear, you just installed the skill for. So you can
Well, Todd, I thought that you were working on a skill as well.
we
Is that
are, but we've got some stuff a little higher in the priority stack right now that we're working. So I've got a whole bunch of yeah, a whole bunch of stuff. And by the way, I am hiring. So if you are a web developer with skills, uh,
preferably?
PHP, database skills, those types of things, send me your CV. Join our team in Columbus. We're ready to grow the team. So, and if you just want to
Cool.
see if you want to see the job announcement, just go to Munster. I think it's on Munster. You can search for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a never-ending battle to
Interesting.
hire people.
Yes. Yes.
So,
So,
but
what
anyway,
else are we going to talk about today?
there's and I do have a hard stop this morning because I got a car appointment. I've got a car that it's braking, but it just feels soft, so I got to go get him checked out. I live on a big hill, so I ride the brakes all the way down the hill till we get to the highway, and it's horrible on brakes. Your drums, your rotors heat up, and you get warping, and then it just ends up being a mess.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, it sucks. So we got our um, PodCon got back to us and
Hmm.
got the final pricing on PodCon. So I don't know if you got that this past week or not. So
Oh, well, yeah, I got it. I got the final pricing back on the booth and that kind of stuff. It's just getting like your furniture and getting all that stuff, you know. That's
yeah.
all. I mean, is there other pricing that you're talking about?
Oh no, I'm just because we thought it originally was going to be like $1,000, and then there was tiered items. So I basically looked that over and decided what tier to go to with, and yeah, I don't deal with the furniture stuff. That's uh, my peoples do that. Luckily,
Your people's.
my team members do that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so
Yeah, it'll be interesting. They're expecting what 2 to 3 thousand people at this
that's what
event, and
yeah,
I'm. It's going to be interesting to see if that actually happens.
right.
Um, it's tough for a first year event to pull those kind of numbers, I think.
He's got a big enough name. He may. I think the bigger event that I'm going to be interesting how it goes is we're going to FinCon next week and
Yeah.
in Dallas, and that to me will be uh, we'll see how that event is. And it was relatively inexpensive to exhibit at as well. So
Yeah.
anyway, we'll see how FinCon goes.
Yeah. Todd, I also noticed that the Nielsen folks put out some
Yeah,
new research.
I
I don't
didn't
know if you
read.
had a chance to
I haven't read it yet.
take a look at that.
I tagged it up, but I didn't have it when it basically when they announced when the news link came out. I was mobile at the time, Let's see if I can find it here and load it.
Do you
Some
want me
people,
to send it to you, or
yeah,
do you have
I've
access
got the
to
link.
it?
I've got the link. So there were
Okay.
some folks that were praising this thing. Um, what what's your skinny on this?
Well, it seemed like it was interesting. It's an interesting perspective on the medium, and it looks like it's something that Bruce, who's been has been my contact over at Nielsen for a while, is behind this. He's looking at the growth of podcasting from an ethnic perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing those kind of trend lines, which is good to see that there's growth in the ethnic side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it looks like it's not growing as fast as I thought it was on the ethnic side, but it is growing. So, and then making a connection between consumer purchase behavior and podcast audiences. So this is really a focus on products
Mm-hmm.
and its correlation to podcast listeners. Um, and this is really good for advertisers to get access to this kind of data, to see, what, let's give an example: bottled water, like you see up on the screen here. Um, there's like 51% of bottled water households are podcast listeners. And they they make it like this tier. There's like avid listeners, and then I guess just everyday podcast listeners. I'm not quite sure. Do we have a clear indication of what the dividing line is, Todd, between
Mm-mm.
avid listener and, let's see it? There's a little asterisk by it. I'm saying avid fan is defined as those who consider themselves extremely interested in a certain genre of podcasts.
Hmm.
So I guess it doesn't necessarily refer to frequency of listening, where I would think that avid title would imply that, right? Somebody that listens to a lot,
This
but
is a
it
weird.
doesn't appear that.
This is a weird
Yeah,
analogy, Rob. I don't. Why are they trying to compare this to bottled water?
it's just a product. It's just a product. They also do it for other products too, like baby food is in here too.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. It says 18 million households have an interest in baby food. Um,
Okay.
15% of all households. 57% of baby food households are podcast listeners. 23% are avid podcast fans.
Oh, so this is how they're trying to describe the demographic of podcast listeners, then.
Correct. Yeah.
Huh.
Well, it's mapping listeners to people that use particular products,
Yeah, to
right?
behavior, right?
Uh, and they have a number in here too. The podcasting audience basically can be influenced. I'm trying to understand this. The podcasting audience has an influence of $1,100,000,000 of baby food sales annually.
Oh,
That's
so
kind of a weird. That's kind of weird
okay.
mapping.
So if we go back to that, basically what they're saying is that um they're saying that 57% of baby food households are podcast listeners. So if you ran advertising in your show that was about baby food,
Yeah,
that audience could influence 1.1
yeah,
billion in sale of baby food.
yeah, yeah,
That's what the equivalency is.
yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Let's look at beer.
But it
40.
doesn't really map to what kind of genre mapping though. Like what kind of podcasts
Well, if
they're
you,
talking about
I
here
think
either.
it's
Yeah,
just if you think about it, baby food is it's there's a wide spectrum of people that are in a baby food stage for that listen to
sure.
podcasts. So it doesn't matter what you advertise in your show, long as it's related around baby stuff. This is the,
Yeah, but I would think that certain shows
of
would
course,
be better for this than others, right?
a mom show that's
Yeah.
talking about raising a newborn, of course, would be the genre.
Yeah.
But let's go to the category that's really important: beer. Um, 48 million households. That's all that. There's only 48 million households that have affinity to beer. Something's got to be wrong with this slide. Um, but
Huh.
anyway, they're
Well,
saying,
it's $3 billion in annual beer sales.
yeah. So that's what it equivalents to. Um, so
So
there's,
those 48 million households drink a lot of beer, Todd.
well, beer. I think, yeah. So
That's just a given, I guess.
craft beer, of course. So it is interesting how they did this. How they It's purely about trying to okay. It is interesting how they did this cross correlation, saying okay, these people that are listening, these are audiences that are consuming these type of products, and how as a podcast advertiser you can influence the the 53% of beer households listening that are listening to podcasts. So 25 million people that listen to podcasts also drink beer. So, if you're Sam Adams and you're coming out with your Oktoberfest beer and you promote that, you might or you would influence, you know. So it's this is definitely a wide look. I kind of like this though. This is a
Yeah.
It's a wide look at the space. This is very nice. They did a nice. You can tell they have professionals that put together their
Yeah. Their graphics. Yeah.
graphic stuff. Yeah.
So, so I guess I'm trying to apply this to an individual podcaster looking at this going, how can I take advantage of this data? And I'm finding it difficult.
So
I
here's where
mean,
they
uh,
explain it. Make the connection between consumer purchase behavior and podcast audiences
yeah.
by matching purchase behavior in the Nielsen home scan panel to fans of podcasts. Nielsen is able to quantify the value of consumers who listen to podcasts. Oh, so they're basically saying this is the marketing value of people that listen to podcasts, and which
Yeah.
hopefully will influence folks in these 300 categories that well, see, this goes back to Nielsen and their home scan panel. This is what this is promoting. They've
Yeah.
they've tied their home scan panel, which goes over 300 categories, and they figure out how it's tied to podcast audiences. Hmm.
So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, it sounds like they're making a bulk kind of perspective on it, but it does kind of map. I see in here if you go to the bottled water category
Right.
page here, Todd,
Yep.
if you scroll down and you look at the percent of households buying bottled water, it breaks it down by genre, by topic genre. Um,
Oh,
but there's
so
not a huge but there's not a huge difference between
no.
the top genre and the least. It's like 2% or 3%
Yeah, a
difference.
dollar. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
So
Hmm.
so really what they're saying here is that some of these product categories will see a lift advertising into any
Well, let's
podcast, I
go down.
guess.
Let's look at baby food then and see which. So the delta here is also not that much. So yeah,
So really any podcast can benefit from running a beer ad.
well,
Any podcast can
yep.
benefit to some degree. Okay, here's one on the beer category. Percent of households buying beer, it's only in the 40% range.
Yep.
Where those other categories, it was in the 80-90% range.
But if you look at the amount that they spend, the spend level's much, much higher.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And Todd, if you go look at the baby food category,
Yeah.
it's only 18 to 17 and a half to 18.5%. So that tells you that
Sorry.
it
Yeah.
doesn't map that strong
Right.
generally.
Yeah. Generally doesn't snap that strong. But whereas beer,
beer
42% maps heavily.
but bottled water is in the 80s
Right, because
and 90s.
everyone buys. There's hardly a person out there that doesn't at least buy one bottled water once in a while. If you're not buying a case,
Yeah.
you're still stopping at a convenience store or whatever. So
So you're going to get more of a lift, I guess, in your advertising if you run bottled water ads, I guess, in your podcast. Um,
I don't know if
I
I
mean,
can influence bottled water though. That's the yeah.
well, I think the danger of bottled water is that it's such a commodity. I'm not sure there's any brand loyalty there.
Well, I don't know. I do have brand loyalty when it comes to bottled water, believe it or not.
Do you
Personally, I do.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The
I, I, I pick up any bottled water. I actually try and avoid bottled water, actually.
Yeah, we do
But
too.
yeah,
We have we have filter, and we carry the jugs. But if I do, I buy the Nestle Pure Life one. That's the water I buy.
okay.
I don't. In matter of fact,
So why is that? Why is that, Todd?
I don't like Dasani. I don't. It doesn't taste good.
So it is a taste issue.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. And some of
interesting.
these other ones I don't have access to, like Zephyr Hills. That's a Florida large. I think it's a Southern water bottler. I don't have access to some of these either. It's true, like Aquafina, Arrowhead, Crystal Geisher's not bad, but some of these brands I don't have access to. But so let's just go down and look at the baby food category. So let's see, what kind of baby food do we buy? Well, I guess when I was when we had
Been a
babies
long time.
yeah, when we had babies in the house, we were buying Gerber and uh, so, but
Beach Nut,
the beer
yeah,
though,
Gerber.
not too much craft beer
Yeah,
on that list. So most, y-
that's all of the major brands,
yeah,
the
okay,
commodity brands. Yeah,
and I don't drink Bud products. Bud is called Insta Headache. If I drink any Bud product, I get a headache instantly.
yeah.
It's something in their formula that doesn't agree with me. But anyway, it doesn't
Uh-huh.
matter. But you know, it I think what they're trying to do here is it's smart in that it's trying to kickstart some advertisers maybe to think. And there was something and I haven't been able to find it, and I talked about it last week. Midroll made a comment um that was so. I mean, it was a perfect paragraph. If I find it again, I'm gonna steal it. It is essentially the podcast audiences are untapped. In other words, they are not listening largely to traditional. They're not getting exposure. I told you on the last show, I saw some commercials I've never seen before because I was at my mom's place and we weren't fast forwarding through commercials. Um, because I'm so heavy in podcasting, I'm not getting marketed to, and I'm an unreached. Their advertisers are not reaching me, and because I'm a
Yeah.
podcast listener, their marketing message is not getting to me today. So what this really does then, if you tie that story into this Nielsen report, yeah, I think get some mileage on this.
So what you're saying is that there's a lot of brand advertisers out there that are not taking advantage of the medium, is what you're saying.
Well, there's brand advertisers that aren't reaching me.
I know they're not taking advantage
No.
of the growing numbers of listeners that are spending more and more time
Mm.
listening to podcasts and less time listening to radio and television.
Right, right. The only
So,
the only time
so
I tuned into radio in the past week is there was a massive traffic jam on Thursday. I was looking at my Waze app trying to figure out what was going on, and I was dead still. And I turned the radio on till I got the first traffic report on what had really happened, and then I went back to listening to podcasts. That was the only thing I listened to the radio for on this past week. Um, so again, I'm untapped on the radio side too. So I don't know. We need to start asking listeners more of these types of questions. Are you hearing the Ford ad? Are you getting the Geico ad? Are you hearing I don't even know what else is running on TV these days. What's big? I don't know what runs on TV. You know, I,
yeah.
I think there's a some of the programs I watch and I DVR, I fast forward through. I think there's Allstate runs a lot of ads or somebody like that. I see those
Yeah,
flash across the screen,
Allstate. Yeah.
but
Hmm.
but I don't. That's it. That's the only thing that comes to top of mind. Um,
Pharmaceutical ads are big on television too.
I, I don't I
Um,
have no clue.
car ads are big.
Yeah, I don't
Um, I,
see none of that.
and I think a lot of smaller brands can take advantage of podcasting too, and I mean a lot of them have at
Mm-hmm.
this point. I mean, when you start looking at the brands that are doing kind of direct response campaigns are not huge names. I mean, they're names that are kind of recent upstart companies that are to them podcasting is a kind of a guerrilla marketing kind of approach. It's not traditional
Yep.
advertising.
And I
I
I typically don't have a lot of positive things to say about Nielsen, but I'll give them kudos on this. This is pretty nice. They did a good job on this.
Yeah.
Even
Well,
though
I
it,
think
it
it's go
even though
go
it
ahead,
took me a few
Todd.
minutes to kind of figure out what they were trying to imply here. So I bet you, Rob, I bet you we can go to Nielsen and buy the reports for all 300 categories. I'm sure that is, you can probably go over there and give them $100,000 and
Yeah.
get all the tie-ins on where the podcasting influence lies in all 300 categories.
Yeah, I don't think that we were the target audience for
No,
this presentation here. I think it was the big big agencies,
for sure.
um, yeah, that are looking at this medium and trying to have a better understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is important that podcasters see this data too, because I think it'll change the mindset of how I think podcasters look at the advertising opportunity here.
Yep.
Um, and I know a lot of the big ad companies have been talking about brand advertisers for a long time, and this kind of confirms that there is a growing opportunity there. Brand advertisers can get in this medium. Um, I think one of the challenges is that a lot of the advertisers have been very focused on kind of a direct response type of methodology, and a lot of these brands are not really going to be able to get that kind of traceable, trackable ROI. And I think that's, if you're promoting a bottled water brand, most people buy bottled water when they go to the grocery store. It's
Mm-hmm.
not they're not going to buy it online,
No.
though. There are more and more, Amazon and a lot of the big grocery chains are starting to do more um, delivery services. So maybe there is, as you look into the future, as more people tap into delivery services, um, maybe there is an opportunity to do a connection between an ad in a podcast and a purchase. But as long as the purchases are mainly happening in the grocery stores for the products that are advertised in podcasts, you're not going to be able to have that direct connection between the ad and a customer purchase.
But then again, so
Um,
we just talked about water. So what's the chance that someone that's listening to this show who's never bought Nestle Pure Life before goes to the grocery store next time and says Todd says he likes Nestle Pure Life better because it tastes better, and buys Nestle Pure Life to try it because they've been drinking Aquafina this whole time?
I think there's a pretty good chance.
I
I
think there's a
I
high
it's
chance.
Yeah, I think that testimonials are powerful. Um, can but the question is, can you track that
No, I don't think you can.
from your mention? I mean, I'm sure somebody's going to try. They're going to try and map some sort of a digital coupon that can be used in a grocery store at some point.
Oh, that would be cool.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a code
Mm-hmm.
that you share in the podcast that you enter into the transaction machine at Safeway or Publix or one of these chains in across the country.
My wife hands the lady the cell phone with the coupon code. Doo. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's possible. It's just it's not being done today. I mean, I spent most a large part of my working career working in grocery marketing. I used to work for some big major um, products in the grocery store, working with Albertsons and Safeway and Costco, and selling products into those chains. So, I think that point of sale is something that is a possibility here.
They need some help here in Hawaii. I go to the grocery stores in the mainland and lower 48, and I go into a grocery store. I'm astounded by all these products that we do not have here. So I need a little help here, Rob. So there's a job for you.
There you go. Yeah, it's a tough business, that whole grocery business. That's why I moved into podcasting.
Okay, smart man. But I'll be honest with you. Nothing better than having a business where people have to come back.
Yeah,
They don't have to come back to a
that's true.
podcast, but they do have to go back to a grocery store to buy more food.
That's certainly true.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
food and TP. TP is a driver of a lot of grocery store visits.
And milk. That's why they put milk all the way to the back. Make you walk through the
Yeah,
whole store.
milk and eggs are always they're always in the back of
The
the store.
farthest
Milk,
corner.
eggs, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not stupid.
Yeah, I used to work in the kind of in the produce department, but I've also spent a lot of years working in the orange juice section,
Right.
and in the kind of processed meat section too, which oftentimes can be in the back of the store as well.
Yeah.
So because it's a staple, right? People come in for meat, they come in for milk, they come in for these staples.
And
I think water
and $100 later.
yeah. And I think some of these product categories are staples, and podcasting, and maybe Todd, we are glimpsing a look in the future of this medium from an advertising perspective, and this is how we get to $1 billion in podcast advertising.
What's the rules on printing this and binding it and giving it to our advertising clients? I probably can't do that, can I? It's probably not legal to do that.
This particular presentation online, is that what you're talking?
Yeah. Probably am not. I don't think I can print their own document. And if hey Nielsen, if you sell these, I'll buy a 25-pack from you.
Well, Bruce was walking around Podcast Movement handing out his little brochure. I think I have it around here somewhere.
So yeah, if they bound this and sold these for $1 a piece, I'd buy 25 of them, and then I'd leave them with media buyers when we went there. Pass them out, and you might end up in a trash can. But
I would think that Nielsen would like that. I would think.
I think they would. But I don't think I can just print this myself and bind it and give it away. I don't think that's legal. I don't know what the rules on that are.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a question to ask the lawyer. Or ask Nielsen. I guess I'll have to send Bruce an email and say, hey, can I print this?
Well, I could invite Bruce to come on the show. Maybe he'll join us.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Talk a little bit about this and the deeper details. I think that we're, again, I think we're seeing what we're seeing here, Rob, and we'll give Nielsen credit here, is that we're priming the pump. We're priming the pump for the brand advertisers. And we're pouring water down. If any of you have ever seen an old school water pump? Some of you haven't. Some of you
it's like a hand crank.
It's a hand crank thing. You pump it, and you have to pour water in the top of it to get it to prime to pump water. Well,
that's right. That's what this deck is.
If you're a prepper, you have one. Yeah, all preppers have one already. I don't have to tell the preppers out there.
It's called a tease, is what they call it.
Is that what? Oh God! Now you're okay, Mr. Educated.
Mr. Educated, yeah, right.
Teeth. You got to be kidding me! Is that what they call it? A teeth?
No, a tease.
Oh, a tease.
A tease.
Oh.
It's teasing you with what you can get from us. Come and pay us the big bucks.
Right. Okay.
This is how we can expand your perspective.
Right. But anyway, I think this is good for the brand folks to maybe go and tie it, and if they tie it back to the mid-roll commentary, and I'd like to see some some facts based upon that comment that he made that were untapped, and we're this untapped audience.
Yeah.
But once you get the podcast listening fever, it's just like, man, it's addicting. It's just like, it's good.
Well, that's what I was hoping that they were going to expand on with this avid designation that they have in here.
Yeah.
Um, but they kind of, I hate to say, Bruce, but it seems like you know it's not really what I thought it was. This extremely kind of interested perspective it doesn't quantify for
Right.
me. I don't know
Now,
about you, but
and looking at the ethnic makeup of podcast listeners, let's see, what do we've got here? We've got a huge Hispanic, of course, according to them, huge as Hispanic,
yeah,
not so much Asian American, but a podcast movement was a good indicator that this space is getting pretty diverse, and
yeah,
um, and it's good. I don't know. That's a new
yeah.
thing I'm saying, and it is good.
It
Like
is.
the force be with you, and it is good. Um,
Yes, yes,
so it's nice to see that, and more shows with folks, creating content, ethnic content, and not even necessarily ethnic content, but more folks that are just creating content.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the content that's being produced for this medium to reach its potential needs to be reflective of the makeup of the population,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Just generally, um, and, it's just what needs to happen. The same with women too. He didn't really map this male and female,
No.
which is a huge opportunity as well. Um, to kind of I'm not saying that men and women it's an ethnic difference, but it's definitely a driver, I believe, of this medium, more so than the difference between African American and Hispanic. I think men and women is a stronger driver,
Well, in
especially as you start thinking about product categories like this.
well, it's okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. So, are you allowed to go grocery shopping, Rob?
Yes.
And I'm allowed to go about once a year because that's how long it takes her to forget the last time I went grocery shopping. When I go grocery shopping, I get a list, right? The list of stuff that
Yeah.
has to be brought home. But I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, and I go
They
to.
don't want you going, right? Is that what you're
They
saying?
don't want me going because come home with $700 worth of groceries when we only needed 200, right? Because I buy the stuff
Yeah.
that I want, that I love, because she knows that, no, we're not gonna. That's not, no cookies, So
Cookies.
the grocery stores would double their gross margins if they only allowed men to shop. If they let men,
Especially in certain product categories too, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't look at price, Okay, tomato juice. I'm a big Mott's tomato juice guy. I can't get it here. I have to order it on Amazon and have it shipped in. And matter of fact, when I get a case of it, I hide it because it's so expensive. And I tell my kids, if you want it, they're $2. So, um, there's certain product categories that I really like, but they're not always the cheapest. So, when my
Yeah.
wife's there, she's thinking about the budget. I'm thinking about my stomach. So,
It's always a mistake to go to the grocery store when you're hungry too.
well, but you grew
Eat
up,
before you go.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
grew up with certain brands, and that's like, okay, if it isn't, there's certain type of ketchup that comes into this house, and if it's not that type of ketchup, it gets returned. It's that kind of stuff. But
Wow. Brand loyalty there, huh?
yeah, and the same with peanut butter. You know,
Yeah.
they're just,
Adams.
I've never heard of it.
Well, it's all natural. It's all natural.
Oh well,
So
we don't
it's
have too
just
many of
it's
those.
just ground peanuts.
We don't have too
That's it.
many. If I go to uh what Whole Foods, if I go to that place, I gotta mortgage my kid to shop there, so it's like Costco.
Which you're happy to do, right? You're
You, you,
happy to do.
you go into
Mortgage your
Costco,
kid.
it's either 200 or 400. That's always the price for Costco. You go into Whole Foods, it's 200 just to walk in the door.
Yeah.
I'm hoping
Well,
I'm hope
hey,
I'm hoping Amazon brings some sanity to their pricing.
well, soon we're going to be ordering all of our products through that Amazon device.
Yeah, that Amazon device. That's cool too. Or have a button, one of those buttons that they have. So it's, you know, I, so anyway, we're laughing about this, but let's be honest. If the podcasting space is going to move to $1 billion industry, we have to have the Gerbers and we have to have the Mott's tomato
I,
juice and the Budweiser and all
yeah.
those companies, the Pedialyte and whoever else's stuff we're buying. We have to have those brands in our shows that we're going to be promoting.
Yeah. And Todd, I don't know that actually a lot of those brands are even advertising in radio today.
That's true.
You know,
That's true.
so there may be opportunities here that get unlocked that have never been a part of audio before.
Yeah.
So, which would give us kind of a growth trajectory that would be different from broadcast radio.
Yeah. I talked with a company earlier this week that has a tool. It's a very expensive tool that basically breaks down what is being spent in the space, and it tells you by brand how much money they spent in TV and in radio and print, and it was pretty impressive. But I had to gulp twice when he told me how much it cost per module, and I tell you, when you got a cool product like that, it was fully worth every penny that they charge. But um, there's a lot of money being spent to market to people in the United States right now. Incredible amounts of money being spent. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And it's a strong economy right now. I mean, things are surprisingly looking up. Uh,
how about that stock market? Woohoo! But what goes up
oh yeah,
can come down.
and it will.
Yeah, just get in when you can and get out when you before it goes. So, but
I'm
yeah,
I,
I'm not surprised that the economy, the economy is gonna. I don't think the government has anything to do with the economy, to be honest with you. I think it just kind of has its own. I mean, some people argue with me, but I think it has its own ebb and flow. So,
well, I think right now I think it is true that there is an expectation of some economic changes that this administration is going to happen. Supposedly promising, like tax reform and things like that that are
Congress,
driving.
Congress is not going to let any of that happen.
I,
None of that's.
yeah,
There will be no legislation, and then sometimes that's a good thing. No legislation this year. They can't get their act together. They're a bunch of idiots.
there's not enough time to do it before their next
That,
break in the session for
that,
the holidays, right?
fire them all. That continues to be my motto. Fire them all.
But who's going to be in there? Are we going to? I mean, but anyway,
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with podcasting.
But
It has
again,
nothing to do with
but
podcasting.
we should, if the economy is growing like it should, we should see a large influx of cash of companies that have got some extra revenue, extra dollars to spend on marketing. So
Yeah, which does give an opportunity for podcasting. So I
sure,
guess that's that's kind of a leading questions. I mean, sure, Nielsen has this research that's coming out, which helps kind of expose what that opportunity might be. But I guess the question is, what is keeping it from happening today? I guess why isn't it happening?
mm,
Why why isn't Gerber advertising in podcasting today?
I think it's too hard for them. And here's another thing too is media buyers are. quite lazy. And I'm going to take some shit for this, but and excuse my French, but they write an RFP, and if the campaign does well, they redate the RFP and put whatever new budget lines on there and send it back out because that young person who's 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 years old has got 2 years in that seat to make sure they don't screw up and lose a client, and they're going with what's safe and proven so that they get their next
Okay.
promotion and move out of that seat. That's a huge, huge part of this.
So it's all about career risk.
I think there's a lot of it that is holding podcasting back is that career risk within agency. So the key is to, the agencies don't have every vendor. I always love working direct with companies, and I think that's what we're going to have to do is go direct, where you got someone that's maybe a little bit, okay, so the money we need to go after, you start watching TV about midnight to about 5 a.m., and anything that's decent, that's a brand ad, not talking about, get the diet scheme or, buy this 1999 product, none of the direct response stuff. But if you go after what's in the midnight to 5 a.m., even on the radio, and if it's actually a decent product, you go after that budget. That's the budget you attack. You go to that company and say, you're spending X thousands of dollars from midnight to 5. Why don't you take a portion of that off and run that in podcasting instead? It's stuff that you're running spots non-prime time. You're running this, and they're essentially running residual,
Yeah.
but they're still spending a lot of money in residual. Take that same dollar amount or a portion of it, move it into podcasting, which is just like prime time. That's the budget we have to go after. And the key is to know where those
Yeah.
where those bodies are buried. You gotta figure out who's spending what, where, when, so that you can attack that budget with that company or with that media buyer. And I just gave people some huge insight on some things you can do. It's a freebie.
Yeah.
I only expect 5%.
So is that reason that you're thinking that? Is it because that may be a way for them to take that same budget, which is typically quite a bit less than prime
Yep.
time,
Yep.
and get a stronger ROI on it?
Absolutely. Because no one's listening to it. People at 2 o'clock in the morning got their TVs on, they're asleep with the blue tube on, or it's on
Yeah.
radio, and you got long haul truckers listening to it.
Yeah.
Everyone else is in bed, so of course you take in that budget is still significant. So you take that budget and you move that into podcasting.
Yeah. Yeah. That
But you,
makes sense.
but
It would
again,
be worth a gamble on their part to try.
and
Yeah.
but you got to know where those bodies are buried and figure out who's spending the money in those hours, in those marketing hours, because advertising is
So you gotta.
broken down into time segments. Certain time segments get a higher drive in the morning on radio. Prime, that is huge. That's number one. 9 a.m. to 3 o'clock. That's the middle of the day. It's a little lower rates. 3 to 5, you're up again on drive again, higher rates. Then starting 6 o'clock on through, radio rates go down, 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 down.
So you think those are bought by the same
Same
type of agencies
same
that are
people,
buying prime time,
same people, same people.
or you think there's more direct going on
Well,
with that?
you have to reach out to the company and say who's who's buying residual. Who's got that
Yeah.
that $100,000 out of the $5 million budget to spend on residual. And you get that 100,000. The guy that's got 100,000 on residual, and you say, give me 20 grand of that for a month,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or a quarter or whatever it is, and let's do something.
Yeah.
And you want a promotion? You're selling this crap stuff. You have to buy residual. Were you the guy that got in trouble and didn't have performance, so you got stuck on the crap duty? Let's get you a promotion. Let's get some. But it may be the. I'm just speculating here. I'm sorry, media buyers, but it could be the same person that's buying primetime is buying residual. But we can
Okay.
never call podcast advertising residual. I just want the residual budget.
Yeah. 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 Because the residual stuff is usually
Damn, I'm getting.
kind of throwaway campaigns. Really, in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
they usually have to take that. Oftentimes, they have to take that some of that residual time with their primetime buys.
Oh, the
So
companies
because a
force
lot of
them to
the
do that. Oh,
yeah, correct. I mean, especially on the broadcast side, I've seen this happen before in
wow.
campaigns that I've done. I don't know with radio is that you buy a certain amount of primetime spots,
Mm.
and that they bundle in a certain percentage of your campaign into the late night hours into the remnant side to
Well,
kind of fill out your frequency numbers.
maybe then that
So you
that
have this, yeah.
maybe that's not doable. Then maybe we can't get that out of them. Huh?
It's I think it depends on the campaign. I don't know that a lot of these big brands are going in and just buying remnant. I think
No.
it's usually a combination of prime time with remnant, and the remnant fills out their frequency requirements.
Right.
Um, I know I had to do that back when I was running radio ads. But that was a long time ago. That was back in the 90s.
So you had to buy crap. Yeah, that
Well, I
sucks.
had to get a certain amount. I would get like 10 primetime radio spots, ad spots in like primetime listening hours, and then I would get like 5 or 6 spots in like the time slot between like 8 and midnight or something like that. And then I would get a certain percentage of campaign in the drive time
Hmm.
frame, and that would give me my frequency numbers
Right.
that I would need to hit to get some idea that I could get a response. Now, granted, in radio, you have no idea what your actual ROI is,
Right.
uh, because there's no direct traceback of transactions that are typically in radio. Back in those days, we didn't use promo codes,
Yep.
and it was hard for me to. I mean, I was doing spots for orange juice, what I was doing at the time. Um, so
So here's
yeah.
a little annoyance topic for us, and this will probably take us out to the close to the end of the show. I had someone write me an email that was scathing. It was just ripping me a new one up and down one side to the other. How dare I make a difference between our free podcast statistics and the $5 a month podcast statistics that we charge for? How dare I do that? And I'm
Offer some stats at a paid level then versus the free level. Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
well, what we do is anyone that wants a free account gets a free account, and we are upfront and say what the free account provides them, and
Yeah.
we give them top 10 of everything in every listing, and then if they pay $5 a month for the pro stats, we give them the full
More.
reports,
More. Yeah. Sure.
So and
Sure.
it's
Sure.
and I got ripped. I mean, ripped up at how. And do people not understand that in order to have stats, in order to have a company, I have to. Do people do people think we have to work for free? You know, I don't get this mentality of
Uh,
you have to give this to me.
well, Todd, I see where you're going with this because we have the same issue too on Spreaker where we offer tiers of service that
Right.
are different dollar amounts
Yep.
that unlock deeper metrics,
Right.
right?
Right.
So the higher the plan is, the deeper the metrics that you
Mm-hmm.
have. And I can see someone's perspective coming in, even at the $5 plan, saying, "Well, I'm trying to build my show,
Mm-hmm.
right? and I need to get deep metrics to understand what's happening with my show to be able to go to the next level,
Right.
and pay more, right? So, I mean, I wrestle with this too as I think about our platform too. Is that I would love it if everybody had access to all the stats that's available.
But then how
But
do
the
you pay?
problem is that yeah. So how do you create tiers of payment so you get an entry point and then a high level plan that offers a lot of value that you can justify the the fee difference, right?
Then how do you
Yeah.
pay payroll if they want this? It wasn't even. It was
Yeah.
how dare I charge for that? No, if they're hosting with
Yeah.
us, they get pro stats. It's included. But if
Yeah.
someone that's using SoundCloud or some other service wants stats with us, we give them the ability to get a free account. We give it away. We've got,
Sure.
thousands of people that use the free.
Sure.
And, and then to, have this like long email ripping me up and down one side the other, how dare I charge? I'm just like, to me,
Oh, okay.
I'm like, huh? I
Well,
just,
it's this wrestling that we've been wrestling with for a long time of free plans and free. I know Todd, you that came up here recently. I think you posted on Facebook about some company that just went out of business
yeah.
and shut down. I can't remember, who it was that was doing free plans, right?
Yeah, you said free is not a business model.
Yeah,
Free, um,
it's a path to going out of business. Yeah,
that's right. And and I don't have the ability to be like Google and have this YouTube platform and but the creators over there are just they are losing their minds because Google's demonetizing videos and people have lost 80% of their revenue and they have no control, absolutely no control of how much they're going to make with their content on YouTube. But podcasters
there
do.
is a price for free,
There
Todd.
is a
There's a
price.
price for free.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
If you want free, then okay, I'll give you free, but I'm gonna put 3 ads in your show. I'm going to do a pre-post, and I'm going to drop something in the middle, probably where you don't want it. We can give you free,
yeah,
but there's got to be, but I don't want to do that, right?
yeah.
I
There's still a price.
there's still.
Yeah.
So, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but uh, we have to stay in business, and there is a reason that we have this. No one else gives you free stats. No one. We're the only one. Well, Podtrac does. Podtrac gives you free stats. So go over there. Complain to
Or
them.
Todd, uh, the other topic that's coming up, comes up, bubbles up repeatedly, is the expectation of free hosting, just because they have celebrities. Um, they just come in and expect everything to be free because they have such a hot a client, or a hot talent that's never done a podcast before. We're just supposed to bend over and and say, do what you want, and I I tell people that there really is no free hosting anymore. It's basically gone
No,
away.
no, we don't do free. I do I do
Yeah.
I do a certain amount of we do give some free accounts away, but those are always circumstantial. And
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
it's yeah, I don't
I
I,
mean, but I'm talking about free plans to big podcasts, right?
right.
I'm not talking about,
Oh, I don't give
entry level shows,
no.
that kind of thing, which they're not going to use any bandwidth anyway. So,
No.
um,
You have a big show come in. You have a big show come in and move 65 terabytes of traffic, and then have a free plan for them, and you wait till that bill comes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I had a couple networks that I've talked to here recently that of, it's a brand new network. they have big name talent, is what they say, and th- they're not going to pay for hosting. So I say, good luck.
Yep.
I don't think you're going to find anybody that's going to do that deal.
No, I won't. And I had someone come by,
I mean, unless the, oh, go ahead,
I
Tom.
had a cat run in here like he was gonna jump on the table or something. Um, the no, I had we recently had a call from a new network, and they had fair number of shows, and you sent them the pricing, and they're like, "Can we just get a basic account?" I'm like, "No, you're a business. You're running a you have to pay on a pro plan, and um, just ask each of your producers to pay $10 a month. Well, we don't want to make them pay." I'm like, okay, then I'm standing by for your credit card. So it's, yeah, if you're going to go into this, if you're going to build a network, you have to understand that it's now a business. It isn't a hobby anymore.
Yeah.
So, and then you're going to
Yeah.
go after and then you're going to go after some of the same advertisers I have, and then run your own advertising and still want free. Not happening.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I think at the end of the day, that's what they want to do. They don't they don't even want to be tied down to an ad share, an ad revenue share or relationship to justify that free hosting either.
I don't
They
do
want to do all their own ad sales and do their own stuff, and they just want the free accounts.
yeah, I don't do ad share. We run everything above board. Everyone gets the same deal. You pay for your hosting, you pay for your services. If
Yeah.
we find an ad deal based on your whatever tier level you decided to
Yep.
come in, it's either 70/30 or they're 50/50 on rev split, and it's the
Yep.
same for everybody. It's No one gets a special deal.
Yep.
you know and I don't. It's just because as soon as you start dabbling out special deals to people, it's not fair to the independent podcast creator that's paying their bill every month.
Yeah.
It's not fair to Tony and Susie who are writing a check. Just because
And
they shouldn't have to
yeah.
carry you.
Yeah. That's exactly what's happening. It's that smaller podcaster that's working a full-time job and
Right.
paying their hosting bill is subsidizing these
No,
big networks.
it's not happening with me.
Yeah.
So and it's in the big networks. If you've got a big network, it's a price of it's a expense line on your business account. So,
Yeah.
so,
And I mean, a lot of these plans with these bigger networks, they're even paying for bandwidth. It's
mm,
not even just the regular monthly
right,
plans.
right,
Um, they're actually paying in addition to that.
right.
I mean, a
Well,
lot of these big shows. I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize, but a lot of the big shows pay for bandwidth
oh
today.
yeah, they do. And that can be a big check every month. Um,
Yeah.
so and that's in all honesty, is the independent podcasters. When you're an indie and you have a big show, count your blessings.
Yeah.
Because it's you count your blessings, because if you seen what your actual bandwidth bill cost, you would be you would melt. um,
and and the cost of bandwidth is dropping, and it's been dropping for years. But if you have a popular show and really consider your encoding bit rates too,
mm,
I think that's a big factor in what's happening here too. Um, for most podcasts, you don't really have to be over 96K
no.
to to have a great listening experience. You can even be down at 64 and be fine.
Yep.
It all gets back to what's the quality of your recording, your master, right? Um, is I mean, if you can get a good quality recording, you can distribute your show at 64K and be fine.
Yep.
But if your recording is a little sketchy, you're going to have to be at 96 to maintain that quality.
Yep.
Um,
But
so and then that almost ups your bandwidth bill by a third. It's going from 64 to 96.
So I don't even, like that email that came in, I didn't even respond because it was that person's mind was already made up, and I could have spent 2 hours going back and forth and over someone that's
Yeah,
complaining about a $5 stats account. So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
so we're
Yep,
time
at the
here.
bottom.
Yep, and I
Yep.
gotta go get breaks fixed. Yeah, interrupt the podcast
All
thing
right.
for important things like
Sounds like fun, Todd.
instead
Yes.
of wrecking, be able to stop. I guess everyone will be back here same time next week. I'm not traveling. How about you, Rob? You good for
Yeah,
next
I'm
Saturday?
around.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
I'm around. I'll see if I can get Bruce on from Nielsen. Maybe
Yeah,
we can get a deeper dive on this opportunity around brands and podcasting.
because it's a topic that's four of mine by a lot of us right now. So we all have our own
Yeah.
internal speculations, I'm sure. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. If you want to reach me, you can reach me, Todd at blueberry.com. Follow me on Twitter at Geek News. Rob?
I can be found on Twitter at Rob Greenlee. That's with two E's. And you can certainly send me an email, rob at Spreaker.com or rob at robgreenlee.com. It's a great way to reach me.
It's been our pleasure to do the show. I'll try to get this one out a little faster than I did last week. I realized I was a little late on putting the last show up, so we'll get this show out a little quicker. But everyone, thanks for being here, and we'll see you
All right.
next week on the New Media Show. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Buttons, buttons, too many buttons.
Yes.